Metropolis City Council order, Monday, March 23rd, 2015. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Here.
Hall.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Present.
Daughtery.
Here.
McManus. Midnight.
Here.
And Mizell.
Here.
Thank you.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, we come tonight thanking you for the blessings that you have given each and every one. Be with this meeting, dear Heavenly Father, that each decision that we make will be for the betterment of the community. Be with the ones in our community, dear Heavenly Father, that have lost loved ones. Be with the sick, dear Heavenly Father, not only the sick, but be with the caregivers. Be with our armed service personnel, not only on foreign ground, here in the United States. Guide and direct their lives, bring them safely home to their families. We ask in thy precious name. Amen. Need a motion to approve the minutes of the 3/9/15 meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Mr. McManus, second by Mr. Corzine. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtery.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
First item on the agenda, citizens' request. Hearing none. Mayor's report. Motion to adopt Kiwanis 100th anniversary proclamation, and it was included in your agenda.
I'll make that a motion, Mayor. I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Corzine, second by Mr. Hall, or vice versa.
No, present.
Okay, Mr. Corzine and Mr. Hall. And we will present that tomorrow at the Kiwanis meeting. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtery.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item. Motion to adopt resolution urging the governor and the General Assembly to protect full funding of local government distributors fund reserves. We will be doing this. We have a motion by Mr. Corzine, second by Mr. McManus. Periodically, probably for the next several months, we probably will be having some things to bring back of things that, funding that are being cut through the state government and things like that. I won't be surprised that there probably won't be at least one thing a month until they find some common ground and start discussing some of the issues that have been presented since the election. This is probably the first of several. So we do have a motion, we do have a second. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtery.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item. Motion to accept advertising for summer help with a submission deadline of April the 8th, 2015.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. McManus. Second by Mr. Midnight. Mizell, all right.
Mayor, how many are we looking at maybe hiring?
We usually put on there, the last several years, we put up to 20. We can work them 75 days at a time. Usually we start out, we'll hire probably 2 to 3 that will do nothing but at first for mowing. And that's what their initial job. And then we'll put on, we try to put on like 6 to something like that. And then we bring on another crew where we can actually go through the mowing season, which is most of the time October, 1st October.
Okay.
But now, I don't think we used that many last year. We used, we probably used at least 14, 15, something like that. And, we just go from there after we go through the applications. We do have a motion, we do have a second. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item, motion to accept advertising for lifeguards
Second.
with the same dates. Discussion. Call a roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Under the mayor's report, anybody would like to know the mayor's basketball bracket really sucks. Pretty well wiped out, you know, and we just got started real good. Next item, corporate council report, Mr. Abel.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item on my agenda, the motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Harris. We actually had all this worked out last fall. You guys still give us informal approval. We went ahead, we got it signed. And I think the plan had been put it on the agenda about November, and it got lost somewhere in transit, we think, because about January, the new general manager called, Brad Hirsch, and said, "Hey, can you send me another copy of that?" And we started looking for it. We couldn't find one either, and we couldn't find where we'd ever approved it. So we stuck
We
it.
do know we took it.
We know we took it down there, we know we signed it, but it got lost somewhere, so we signed another one. It doesn't involve any money changing hands between us, you know, when we first started this, there were incentives back and forth. It doesn't do that, it just simply, it acknowledges a couple important things, that for real estate tax purposes, this new casino will be considered real estate improvements. The old boat was not, so we maintain a tax basis there. The second thing it acknowledges is that, they would always do that. They would never challenge whether it's on the water or real estate for real estate tax law purposes. Now, we admit that it's on the water for Riverboat Gambling Act purposes, which the state says it is, so I guess it is. The only thing that affects, because Riverboat Gambling Act provides that the state has total jurisdiction or control over any liquor licenses relative to the casino. Okay, we don't have any control, we don't have any input, we don't get any say one way or the other on that. That's just simply the state. That's the way it was with the boat. It's the same way now with the existing casino, and we just acknowledge that that is the law. And the only other thing we put in is that because there was no money exchange, however, in the course of all the negotiations, and actually as a surprise to both of us, if you recall, the supervisor of assessment dropped the assessed valuation on Harris. In spite of the fact that this was going to actually make the property worth more, he dropped the assessed valuation. We didn't get any real player say in that, and so what we did agree is we won't challenge that for 3 years. They won't seek to drop it either for that same period of time anymore, and it'll just stay where he left it. And then after that, you know, all bets are off. We can see at least after 3 years how it's performed, and that'll give us some idea of the value, whether it really has increased. We went into that negotiation, everybody, Harris City, thinking this is gonna increase the value of that piece of property. You got just a shell, which is a convention center, now you're gonna put a casino in it. It made sense, it would increase it. But the supervisor of assessments thought otherwise, so, and that's his prerogative, I suppose. But,
Well,
anyway,
Mr. David, did they, I know the tax levy's through 17 now, what's your license through, at what year? Did they just get new license?
they did about a year ago,
Yeah,
yeah,
13.
yeah, they did.
Okay, yeah.
I think they're through, they got it about a year ago, so they're probably through, is it 3 or 4 years?
I think it was through
It's through at least 17, I
17,
believe,
I
so,
think.
yes, I think it's
Or
through at least 17 or 18 is where they're through. So, anyway, it's more just an acknowledgement, this is what we agreed, this is the law, this is what applies, they agree, this is what applies, and that's where we're at.
So in 17, the tax base could change.
It could change, yeah, it could change. So, and like I say, after 3 years of operating history, we've all got a basis to think, hey, now there's a reason to have a new evaluation made, so.
Well, I'll make this as a motion. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Midnight, second by Mr. McManus. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtery.
Yes.
McManus.
Yes.
Midnight.
Oh, boy. Yes.
And myself.
Long day. I agree. Just wanting to get out of here. Definitely believe I am not.
Are you ready to go home?
I'm beginning to wonder, did I miss my?
Sometimes y'all throw me with those voices.
Makes things interesting.
Just briefly on the pool bathhouse, I want to give you a little bit of update. I could probably see this on there for a while until we, just as, whether we have something to comment or not, I'll just probably have it as a standing item for a little short term. I have talked to Carbondale Park District and to the city of Marion, both of which were impacted the same way as we are. Their projects are underway. Now, there are some municipalities that we've heard of that got the letter, but the projects really weren't underway. And so, I mean, while they're disappointed, they didn't have a lot of money committed to the projects at that point. Carbondale actually had a $3.4 million project that they're about 50% done with. Now, it's a park district, it's not a city. So, unlike the city, they don't have any other resources to turn to. And the other coupling factor for them, which is kind of difficult, their match was raised through private donations. It was raised through fundraising and other activities and corporate donations. So, she's in a bind. She doesn't really know. I talked to the lady that's the director, talked to her attorney, who happens to be a friend of mine. Well, he's in a pickle too, because his law firm is general counsel to Illinois Department of Natural Resources in Southern Illinois. So he's got a conflict. He felt like he didn't think it was a particularly good move on the governor's part to do this action, but nonetheless, I did talk to her. One of the suggestions, I said, how are you going to respond? She said, we're in kind of a pickle. She said, we don't have another pool of money to turn to. She said, I can't be overly aggressive. She said, but we've been somewhat respectfully aggressive, she'll say. She said that they created a hyperlink on their website. They got a local guy that did it for them. She said at virtually no cost. And she said, we put a sample letter on there. We've contacted every organization, from churches to schools to everybody else, asking that they send, all you gotta do is, if you wanna just use the standard letter, you go on, put your name on the hyperlink, press send, and it goes out automatically to the governor, to IDNR, and to the state representatives, and your state legislators. And she said, I'll put you in touch with him if you wanna look at using it. So that's one thing we're gonna look at and consider. She said, now, when we got the letter writing campaign going, she said, I had to screen some of those. Some weren't too nice. And I laughed at that. She said, however, she said, there was one little boy in the 3rd grade that wrote a letter, said he wished he was Santa Claus because he put a lump of coal in the governor's stocking for this one. But I said, well, I said, did you send that on? She said, you bet I sent that on. She said, I figured so. I talked to Mayor Butler in Marion also, and they're impacted, as he said, they were about 99% done with their project. That's their new indoor rec center. By the way, Carbondale was a pool, new pool,
Water park?
well, not a true water park. It was a pool with a lazy river in it, and it had a very tall water slide, okay, and a bathhouse. And like I say, theirs was a $3.4 million project, and they had a zero depth entry. She said, but Marion is an indoor rec center with small indoor pool, and he said that the state's obligation on that was, well, what they're owed right now is about $1,250,000. Now, I took it that they, from talking to him, they may have gotten a partial funding early on. You can do it one time, apparently. We looked at it, but at the time we didn't have enough cost to make it worth their while. You bill $60,000, get $30,000 back. It wouldn't have made any significant difference. They got a little bit on their design back, but that's about all, I think. He's owed about $1,250,000, he said, at this point. He has no expectations either. He said we talked about it. He's pursuing some political routes, but he said, you know, unfortunately, you've got, people on opposite sides, of the political spectrum. He said their representatives, like ours, are from the Democratic Party, governors from the Republican Party, and they're not really talking to each other. And, he also commented that they're gonna take a big hit, this thing you all adopted tonight about the local government distributed funds, LGDF. Marion will get hit about 800,000 on that, so they're looking at a $2 million hit this year. He said, you just don't pull that off the tree. And I said,
They
well,
have the pension stuff too.
and they're facing the same issues we are. I mean, this is collectively, I mean, when we talk about, sometimes we've got these real troubling issues. I know I've mentioned to you, primaries pension funds also, they're in the same boat there too. They're facing the same exact struggles we do. They're handcuffed because they can't raise the taxes, and they're handcuffed, because their obligations keep growing, and they can't, and the state's set all this in place with what the state has provided in those two pension
And
funds.
they have the PTO also.
And that's why they can't raise their taxes. So it's a tough time in local government right now. And that's what he said. You know, for a guy that's been the mayor since John Kennedy was in office, for him to say, it's a tough time, and by the way, if you come up with any answers on this one, please give me a call back, is what he said today. I said, well, we're looking at respectfully, and I've already started drafting this, respectfully but firmly pushing back on this somewhat, at least at first, because I said, well, we don't have a choice, we have to finish. He said, I don't have a choice, I'm all but finished, I gotta finish. The lady in Carbondale actually suspended the project, because she doesn't have the money anywhere, she doesn't have anything. You know, Carbondale's got one fund, the Park District does, that's what you get with partners, you got one little fund, okay?
Well, what happens to their contracts? In other words, they sign a contract, we live with the state.
They're about done.
And, well,
Which
Well,
one are you
like
asking?
Carbondale.
Carbondale, they're in a bind, they don't know what's gonna happen, because they suspended it. The contractor did leave the job, whether he's gonna pursue them or not, they don't have the money, so I mean, he probably won't, but how they get him back and what it'll cost when they get back, that's one of the issues she and I talked about, is that, once the contractor leaves, getting them back, and they're gonna charge you more. History shows that if they come back, they want a fee for getting set up again, it's called remobilization, okay? They want a fee for taking it all down and leaving right now, and never fails. They will want somewhere between 15 and 20% more. They'll say labor costs have gone up that much, and they'll want that much more, and they're probably entitled to it. You'll argue the dollars, but they'll get some part of that, and she knows that, and so, you know, she's the rock in a hard place. We are too, but fortunately, we had other places we could turn. She has no other place to turn.
so ours, as far as the pool, like we did the other night, is solid and we're ready to continue.
We're still
on.
pursuing, yeah, we're still pursuing, yes. Now, I know in light of what we talked about the other day and what came out, I know that some of you guys will get hit up in the coffee shops and the barbecue stands about, well, this is too high. And I've already heard a couple comments from shade tree contractors that say, well, I could have done that for half. Well, the appropriate response is, why didn't you bid it? You know, why didn't you bid it if you really could? I mean, we had 6 bids and this was the lowest of all. And the facts are, in most cases, these projects are a lot more complicated. They don't sound like much. I mean, bathhouse don't sound like much. But when you have to build it to meet state guidelines, that's the real kicker. We didn't create these issues, but you gotta meet state guidelines. So you gotta comply with the federal Americans with Disabilities Act. You gotta comply with the ADEA. You gotta comply with certain public safety, public health regulations. And frankly, if you ever look at the book of plans we have for this, we have them drawn up, and then the state went back and modified them before they give approval, because there's certain things you have to do, and that's what tends to cost. And then the state makes you pay prevailing wage and benefits, the state makes you have everything bonded. You know, a lot of our contractors don't bond these jobs, and so it does add quite a bit to the cost, and unfortunately, that's just where we get handcuffed. But the fact is, if somebody thought they could bid it for less, they should have bid it, really, is what it boils down to. They should have bid it. But anyway, it's not the best of news by any means, but it is, I do want to keep you updated. We are moving forward. On our part, we're moving forward. But we're not dropping the issue of should they reimburse us. And by the way, we did submit last week all the costs that we had through March 9th. Those were submitted in a timely manner to you. And DNR got that, so they acknowledged that they got that. So we'll see where it goes, and we'll keep you advised.
Most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, when Mr. Abel puts pen to paper, I have to censor it. This time, that 1%, Mr. Abel had to censor my letter. He said, "You can't say that." I said, "Well, we can do." He said, "No, we can't." So, he's got a,
So we,
Put a little touch on it.
if we take legal action, will we be by ourselves or with other counties or other
no,
cities?
could be a
or-
big class action.
At
Right?
this stage, we don't know, because here's where we're at. We're at a point where it's suspended. But this is an issue that, Mike Toomey and I talked a little bit about, and he can't go, like I say, he's the guy with the conflict, he's the attorney at government with the conflict, but we talked a little about this. Suspended is not terminated, so at this point, they're not saying you won't absolutely get the funds. We just put a hold on everything, so we can review it, is what they're saying. Now, the question is, then we have to see, all right, how long do they suspend it? And what are they gonna do about these kind of damages, like I told you, that occur if you actually send somebody home? Now, we're trying to avoid that, we're trying to mitigate that, but not sending somebody home and then having to get them back. I think that'll be looked at. I think, in the end, whether we sue or not may come down to how long they drag this out, Mr. Mizell. For example, if the state would hold this off till after June 30th, the fiscal year, then we'd have to look and see, are they gonna try to use that out about not appropriating the money? Now, our argument is they appropriated twice, okay? They didn't pull, they're not gonna, it's kinda hard to make it, in good faith, didn't reappropriate it if it was there, okay? And so, I think that's the time frame where we would have to make a decision about how do we deal with this. If, between now and June 30th, they come in and say, well, yeah, we're gonna pay you this, or yes, we're gonna do this, or we're gonna put it back in place, then we'll, we'll be all right. Cause we were gonna have to fund this 100% till the end anyway, so we're not in any worse position in that sense at this point. But come about June 30, and we see where things are, if they play with, and they may not have a budget done by then, so we may not know until sometime in July or August whether or not this happens. My big fear, and this is the one thing I did ask both these other parties, and I asked even Mike Toomey, is could they be jockeying with this just so they can wait till after June 30 and then say the budget money's not broken? And everybody said, yeah, that could be it. The Park District works through the Illinois Parks Association. I think they have kind of like we have mutual aid for utilities. They are utility association. They have a parks association, and Ms. Renfro told me she'd talked to the director of that. And of course, he had told her, you got to be careful how aggressive you are because your only source is DNR, so you can't just end up hit them with a ball peen hammer and expect them to turn around. But everybody's kind of on a wait and see, and like I say, I think we have to respectfully push back and explain our position and why we think this is wrong, and then probably see what other municipals are gonna do. Probably get a chance sometime within the next month, to ask IML what they think, will be done. IML's got municipal lobby day next month in Springfield, and, that coincides with another day that I'm supposed to be there, so, we may ask IML what, they think should be done.
Brad Cole's doing a good job as the new director of IML. He sends out plenty of emails and, things like that, and I think they'll be a benefit, so.
Would there be a need for maybe some of us aldermen to attend that as well, and maybe show our discontent with what's going on and try to get the lobbying to swing around the other way?
I don't think we've ever gone to, IML lobby day, but they asked, mayors and elected officials to come up for that.
That's what I was thinking, if there was.
And this may be a bigger year than ever before. A lot of years, it's kind of a dull year. Nothing's gonna happen, nobody's gonna get anything done, and this is the year where, it's, as they say, we live in interesting times. This is the year that nobody knows how to predict, and so that's one of the things that.
Well, this is a big enough fiasco, I think, that we need to set our foot down. I think we've got to get out and charge, I say let's lead it, because I think what the governor's done is flat wrong, and he's doing the citizens of not only Metropolis, but all these communities affected a disjustice. I mean, you've been appropriated the money, you've entered into a contract, it's just, I mean, to me, that's wrong, so. But that's just my opinion for what it's worth.
Let's hope the courts agree with you if we go that far.
Maybe we get 8 of us on the jury.
Probably get that for. Maybe not, but
Looks like he has the little 3-year or 3rd grader's letter is really is cold.
yeah, but this could be just a bargaining chip for him or something else.
The only other thing I'd mention is that, and we don't have a position or anything yet, but just to give you a heads up, we will be talking to you probably in a couple weeks. Next time we come back for city council, maybe sooner, but more likely in a couple weeks. Both FOP, which represents the police department, and the firefighters have notified us that they want to begin discussions on their new contract. Theirs is up in the end of June, so we will give you more information. We've got a couple preliminary meetings. Usually those are just simply to kind of get ground rules and feel each other out. We've got a couple of those scheduled, but once we get a proposal, we'll, just to give you a heads up, we will be coming back to you. We'll have a closed session. We'll do it. There's no need to have one now because we don't really have anything to tell you.
Committee reports. Industrial Committee, Mr. Midnight, sir.
Yes, we've discussed this several times, and I think our paperwork is ready to go now, so I would like to make a motion that we suspend the rules and place an ordinance approving the intergovernmental cooperation agreement upon its passage with Shawnee Mass Transit District.
Second.
And it's 04.
We do have a motion. We do have a second. Call a roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtery.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes,
And myself.
Yes.
and we're really welcome Shawnee Mass Transit. We're looking forward to that, moving into our industrial park. That would be a big help to us. I'll make a motion, we adopt the ordinance 2015-04 as presented.
We do have a motion, we do have a second. Call a roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Carroll. Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtery.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And myself.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have two other things in the chute, hopefully very soon. Obviously, we mentioned about Mr. Russell's electrical company maybe moving in, and so we'll be discussing that soon. And I think I mentioned that we have a young lady who's applied for a CDAP loan. And so Mr. Abel has looked at the financials of that. And as always, we don't see the financials. He brings the report. That's how we keep them private. So that'll be coming up shortly too. We'll have a committee meeting someplace, and then we bring that very soon in the future. That's all I have, Mayor.
Department heads. Mr. Stoney?
Nothing.
Jason? Frank?
Nothing at this time.
Jack?
In your packets is updated version of your corporate limits and ward map. Each year that we have a change, it's supposed to be altered, adjusted, updated, presented to you for your recommended to you for your approval. We had one annexation, I believe, last year. It was out on the highway, the Burnham salvage yard. So the boundary and the ward actually changed there. So the city limits changed a little bit, and that became part of Ward 3. I believe that's right.
Yes.
We'll make a motion, we accept this corporate limits and ward map.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. McManus, second by Mr. Hall. Call a roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtery.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And myself.
Yes.
Moving on. Old business.
Mayor, I've got one issue. I was looking back at the some committee minutes, and I know we've talked about this Kurt Jones loan 11 different times. Then we went into closed session 14 months ago, and the guy borrowed $2 million and still owes us all of that but $2,000 after 7 years. I think we need to get busy and start doing something about trying to collect this money, get it back into the general fund. We were all talking the other day about different ways we could pay for the pool house. That was more than paid for. With that money, we could have put that in that electric fund, and we may not have had to raise the rates on all the people. And I think all Kurt's done since I've been up here the last 4 years is give us one excuse after another. And I'd like to, first chance we get, to maybe take another look at this and start repossessing some land.
We certainly will put that in Mr. Midnight's industrial committee and talk about it.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else on co-business?
We got another housing meeting coming up this Thursday at 11 o'clock. It's an open meeting for everybody, and we're moving forward with it, so hopefully before long I'll bring you a good report, but this meeting should get to where we're going to see where we're going and the future of it. So it'll be at 11 o'clock Thursday, this Thursday. We meet every 2 weeks.
New business. Miscellaneous reports. Financial report, payment of salaries, payroll, and contract bills.
I'd make that a motion, Mayor.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Corzine, second by Mr. McManus. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes?
Hall.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
Dennis. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Payment of miscellaneous bills.
I'll make that a motion as well.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Corzine, second by Mr. McManus. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes?
Hall.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
McManus.
Yes.
Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
At this time, I don't know of anything in the executive field. I will, probably maybe in the next 2 weeks, something like that, we may have something to bring back. We've actually got another request from the Grafton folks of a preliminary proposal. I think they're in their finance situation right now with their partners and stuff like that, wanting to know what a preliminary we can do that we do for each and every one that chooses to go to the industrial park. Other than that, we'll just have to look at it. They have asked for that preliminary, which we've already discussed that 2 or 3 times in the industrial park. They're still very interested, and I think they do have some new people in there, and one of the people is actually the folks at Ledbetter. So they moved into the picture again, and then there's another facility that may kind of work into it at Mayfield also. So if they could get enough of these, and get the quantity that they're looking for, I think it probably would be a good fit for our industrial park. And we will be sitting down and talk to Mr. Allen and things of that nature. And the only thing in the preliminary setting will be, here's what we do for everyone. Anything other than that will come back before the industrial committee, and if they need things that we can't, we'll just have to come up with an agreement with the city council and decide what other things they might wanna do. But anyway, it's still, there. We will try to get back to them sometime this week, with this preliminary thing where they can move on with their finances. I don't think there's anything else, that I can think of. Of course, we're patching streets and potholes, and we did get, another load of, coal patch and things like that. We're gonna have 2 or 3 days of really, really nice weather, and then I think it's gonna get down to about 28 again, in the latter part of the week, so. As a reminder, City Hall will be closed on Friday, April the 3rd, to observe Good Friday. Tuesday, if any of you don't know, is Election Day, April the 7th, and please go out and vote. And now I'm open for an adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.